You hired consultants to help you move faster, and they did. But now, you can't seem to take control. They just keep expanding, and their bills keep going up. It's time to break that mold. Today, we're going to talk about a better way to consult. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how consulting companies and their clients end up in, a weird way to say it is like a parasitic relationship. A lot of times we bring in, or a company will bring in a consultant or an agency, and an agency, has skills. They might know how to do a technology, or they might know how to do something that the company wants to learn, but that relationship often sours over time. There's like this issue that comes as an agency engages with their client and the client with the agency. At first they get a ton of value from each other, but over the course of months and years, the agency can become extremely reliant on their client for revenue. They might need to swap in different resources, lower skills, and you end up with this like land and expand. So how do I extract more and more as a consultant? How do I extract more and more out of my clients rather than giving them the skills they need to maybe even like walk or run without me? Is it possible even to run an agency where you don't end up, landing, expanding, becoming a parasite in the side of your clients? Or can you build something that gives back and then leaves?
Job security through obscurity. If nobody knows what you're doing, you have job security. I mean, that's the old lie, right? And so, I don't know, like, it's funny too, land and expand is such a trope in consulting. It's almost like table stakes. People just expect it. Mm-hmm. Like, you come into the door, we hired a consultancy. When am I going to get bugged for like a renewal? When am I going to bring in like 10 more project managers or like 6 more engineers? But the job of a consultant is enablement, right? To be able to allow a team to grow and expand and do new stuff, not to replace. And so there's like this watering down of culture, I think, that can happen when you lean on that land and expand model. Like all of a sudden they're so synonymous with each other. It's like, when does the consultant start? When does the client end? Right? We've seen a lot of those things happen, right? What's that Mr. Beast quote that you like to throw around?
Oh, consultants are a shortcut?
Or a superpower.
Or a cheat code, I
A
thought.
cheat code.
Cheat code, that's it, yeah.
Cheat code.
I think like back in the day when I think about cheat codes, like it's kind of a stretched metaphor really, but it takes the fun out of a lot of the game, right? But if someone can show you like the skills, like you're playing Street Fighter or something and you can crush like some special moves, I think that would be more of like the consulting thing where I can empower you to do the thing you want, not put you on cruise control, right?
Yeah, it's like that enable and deprecate is what we've been saying. Like,
right.
If I'm a consultant, or if I'm a consultancy owner, my biggest goal is like I need to keep paying my bills. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to land into a client. I land a big contract. They hire me. Maybe I know React, and this company wants to build something in React or like whatever. And so I land a bunch of React people. It's almost in my best interest to not have my client learn React, because the longer they work, or we build more and more of this like React stack for them, and the less of it they know, the more dependency they have on us. That's another invoice I can send, another app I can build, another like thing I can maintain. But you end up with these companies that won't engage with agencies. They do stuff that they maybe don't know how to do. They don't engage with the cheat code. I think a cheat code is like, to me, is like, I'm going to get past the boring part of the game and get into the end game faster. And so like, if I can like apply a cheat code, learn React, and then I can have the consultancies leave, and I can bring in those skills so that my organization is stronger, it is better, then I think there's huge value in consultants. And actually they're probably, the cost of that service can be way higher, or because the value is way higher, because it leaves me in such a stronger position.
I don't know, like consultants get like this bad rap of vampires, right? And then they come in bad faith, right? So like sometimes you'll bring in a tech stack that you have no business even bringing in, right? And so you create this false reliance on on that tech stack. I don't know. I understand why people, when I talk about how we think about things, they're like, how do you guys pay bills?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you're not coming in with like an army of people. You're not coming in with like, this kind of weird, like specific tech stack. You're really trying to meet the client where they are. Right. So how does that actually work? Like, how are you profitable? I don't know. It's kind of funny. It seems like so in the DNA of consulting, like it's almost people just assume you're going to do that. And I think it's refreshing that,
I mean, it is the nature of the business. Like if every customer costs more to acquire than it does to renew a customer, you have it like inherent motivation to only renew, because I have then a baseline set of revenue. It doesn't. But what happens when that, like, I'm just going to keep renewing, I'm going to become the core of a company, is that like the consultant eventually doesn't want to be there. Like you talk to agencies and they've had clients for like 3-5 years and they're like, none of their team likes the project. It's a drag. So the consultant doesn't want to be there, because people go and work at consultancies because they want breadth. They want, any number of experiences over the course of a year rather than a depth in like one product. And then the client doesn't want them there because they're like, wow, these guys just like keep expanding. They keep raising their rates. We have no idea what the hell they're doing. Like all that kind of stuff ends up where the relationship starts off super strong. And then all of a sudden, or not all of a sudden, over time, it becomes parasitic. Like we're neither want to be apart, like to be working for each other. But I, as a consultant, need to stay with this customer because they're a large portion of my revenue, and I, as a client, need this consultant here because I never took the agency to like deprecate the agency. And so I have a strong dependency. It can be fixed though. Like I think there are consulting models that get past it. You just don't see it very often.
Yeah.
It's just being in-house with extra steps.
Yeah, it is kind of in-house with extra steps. So why would a company even do that though? Like, why do they want to have like a in-house contractors that don't work for them? I mean, it's a pretty common pattern.
It is. I mean, when I first started my career, like I was an in-house consultant. I didn't know it at that time, but I was part of the land and expand. Like I would just be on a project or a client for years. Like just kind of stay there. But then it's also that balance, right? Like you're saying, you would have these long-term engagements, but then, over time it just becomes a burden both for the client and for the consultant. But if you have like these shorter engagements where you can deliver impact and value and then roll off, I mean, I would say, wouldn't you argue that that kind of builds that credibility for you? It's like, okay, these guys come in, deliver impact, and then empower us to become better. That becomes your brand, right? Yeah. Instead of this parasitic relationship where you're like, I don't know what these guys are going to do. Like, how long are they going to stay? Are they just going to stay here for renewals, right? Like, that, like how you position yourself as an agency, saying that we actually prefer shorter timelines where we come in, deliver value, and then bounce.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like the difference between staff augmentation, so like fulfilling a role, is very tactical, right? So if I'm going to be someone on a project, I'm going to augment this staff, I'm going to ship this feature. I've never seen myself that way as a consultant. I always think there's tactical ways to make a strategic impact, right? So like I can sit with the team and help enable them, but like there's a bigger picture there. There's a larger strategic vision that we're trying to put in place. I think that's the differentiator, because anybody can just sit in a seat and sling code, but having strategic impact is challenging,
Yeah, it's that fast strategic impact where you're just not a warm body. And I like now, a lot of the warm body stuff, the labor of writing code can start to get, outsourced to AI.
Yep.
And so like if the consulting play is truly like labor arbitrage, so we're going to hire agencies, to put warm bodies in seats because we don't have to pay benefits, or we can cut them faster because of laws, or we can put them in countries that we don't have a presence in, or whatever it is, then if now the meta will shift to where we want to use generated software to fill the labor portion, and we'll use, we don't need arbitrage labor, we'll arbitrage software production, and then we have consultants that actually figure out how to actually build something,
right.
which does seem true. The hard part about being like, okay, so you have like a labor guy who comes in and they're just gonna build stuff. They're sitting a warm body in a seat, like you said. And then you have consultants, which also get a pretty bad rap for just like delivering decks. There's like like I'm gonna tell you what to do, but I'm never gonna be around to actually do it.
Right.
There's got to be there's a middle ground, right? Like we should be able to build and work together and like guide strategic implementation all together. So the value is I get working production systems, I get working output, which is what the warm body gives them. But I don't have a dependency on that warm body because I'm also building in, the how we built it, the what we built, and I'm embedding that like into the company's tribal knowledge, my client's tribal knowledge, rather than into my consultancy's knowledge. And so I'm not holding hostage.
I think what you get when you hire a consultancy like ours is we have a lot of people with a considerable amount of experience who are interested in that strategic implementation.
Well, it's pairing.
Right.
It is pairing. Like that's the answer. The
right.
way you get a client to understand and manage and build what they need to, so they in-house the product. They are thinking about their software, their systems, their problems in the shower, because consultants aren't thinking about that. They're thinking about their company in the shower. How do we get them there? As we pair with them, you sit down side by side, you work on the same software together, you put two people right next to each other and you rotate that often. And the software development life cycle is cyclical. So I have large feature pushes,
yep.
and then I have kind of these tranches of maintenance. And even in a highly iterative environment, that's what it looks like, because you push out feature, you get feedback, and then you push out feature and you get feedback. And during the tranches of lower feature development, like, you don't need the consultants.
Yeah.
There's an argument to be made that strategic decisions should be kept in-house. So around product, around user, like the company should be owning that, and it shouldn't be outsourced to consultants. I don't fully agree with that, because it's sometimes the client doesn't have the expertise or the process or the knowledge to be able to put that process in place to be able to, or to know what a good experience is. How does a consultancy or hiring a consultancy impact the end user? Is, I mean, once if you have these long-term engagements where you're only looking at warm bodies and you're looking at these just billable hours, you get to a point where the user experience also degrades, because the consultancy is not in any rush to improve the experience, right? Like it's like, I wouldn't say it's malicious, but it's more just ignored. Like, it's just ignored over time, and then the quality obviously just is going to suffer because they're just involved in other things that have like a fake kind of priority, right? And then eventually, I would say, yeah, like the end user experience just suffers because of that.
Well, I think it suffers because a consultant is not accountable to the business, or a consultant is accountable to their client, not to the customers of their client. Mm-hmm. And so there's a layer of abstraction. So if I'm in-house at a product company, like, I am just solely focused, hell-bent on figuring out how I can like extract more, understand my users more, get to a place better with those users. But those people as a consultant are not my customer. Mm-hmm. I don't have to please the customers of my customer. I just have to please my client. And so I'm like, there's that layer of abstraction, means that I actually at some point don't ever want to take a risk. I'm just going to make pleasing decisions to my customer. So if I'm hired by Acme Corp, I'm just going to make decisions as a consultant, or I'm just going to do things that make the Acne Corp happy, not Acne Corp's customers happy. Because if I do something that makes the customers happy, but it, throws off a whole department, or it means that we need to, shift product directions dramatically, then I could end up like upsetting the person who's signing my bill.
Which is where I think I disagree with that model of a typical consultancy focusing only on the stakeholders, on the clients, and only pleasing them. Like, if you are a good consultant, you should be working not just in the client's best interest, but also the client's clients, which are the customers. Like, you should be.
Yeah, we all say. I mean, they all say that, and like you want to say that, but it's not. It's not who writes or signs your check. Like, at the end of the day, it's not who signs your check. And if you keep that abstraction far enough, like, you can always. If I have some VP who's signing my paycheck, I want to make, or my bills, and is renewing with me all the time, I'm going to make that VP happy. That's where my incentives are. As a consultant, you have that abstraction, and so like giving the skills back to a company to go and solve that problem. So strategy, I actually do think strategy needs to be inside of companies. I think they hollow themselves out because they don't want accountability to their decisions. And so they hire a whole bunch of people to go make those decisions. They hollow all that out, and then they're just like a shell of a brand, with consultants delivering everything. You can engage, and the best companies keep that stuff in-house. They engage consultants like cheat codes. They bring them in to upskill to, if a consultant has done something 1,000 times and you've never done it, hell yeah, hire that person.
Right.
But then get to the point where you get all the skill of that 1,000-time implementation, and then exit the consultant and have that in your company rather than having just a shell around this person. Because no consultant makes risky decisions. It's not even us. We're not going to, because we are incentivized not to.
Right.
We're incentivized to please the buyer, and the buyer is not the customer of our customers. It is, some VP, some CIO, some CMO. And so how we fix that is we intentionally make ourselves want to leave.
That brings up an interesting point. So then it's not just the consultant that we judge on being, are they like a parasite or not, but it's also looking from a client's perspective. Are they just looking to offload that risk, right? Like, you're looking at both.
Yeah, and that's what, like, it is, the parasitic relationship is like, maybe parasite's the wrong word, but like neither of them want the other party there over time. Because of the dependency on revenue or the dependency on a skill set exists. And so how do you break that dependency? And I'm not saying that, like, as an agency, you shouldn't be there for long periods of time. You should just design your engagements in ways that make it so you can leave at any time. And and what happens if you do that is you actually stay for longer. You have a better business. You actually work in more strategic things for the customer, but they don't feel beholden to keep you around.
Right.
Instead, they want you there. They keep inviting you back into their house.
Yeah. Isn't it kind of interesting, though, that we think about how many times you go online and you look at a review from some stranger to help you make a massive decision?
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're going to buy a car, and I'm going to go look at 300 people and said, that car I bought is great, right? So we have this natural kind of proclivity, if you will, this natural tendency to outsource decisions. And I love the thread on making it, it's not my responsibility. But you don't do that in like a typical buying engagement, right? Like, if I go look at 300 car reviews and I buy a crappy car, like, who am I going to blame? I'm going to say to my insurance agency or something, I made a bad decision. The Amazon review of that was really compelling.
You're buying cars on Amazon?
Yeah.
I was going to say that.
Well,
Maybe don't do that. All right, so I want to talk about why consultants always land and expand. It seems to be this, like, I, as a consultant, need customers. As soon as I get one, I'm going to get more and more people there. And why is that an unhealthy relationship over time for the consultant and for the customer?
So I saw this interesting clip. It talked about how ChatGPT will take over the world, and it did it in 4 steps. Like, it said, first, you would have dependence on ChatGPT, and we kind of already see that. We're offloading a lot of our critical thinking, a lot of our daily tasks to ChatGPT. I mean, to a point where people are forgetting how to, like, some words, like when they want to talk through things or think through things. And the second step is integration, and it embeds itself into all of our tools, devices, and systems. It hasn't gotten there yet, but there are signs. I mean, it's like we can say with certainty that it'll get there. And then it starts influencing our culture, our trends, our opinions. And we can kind of already see this with, the Ghiblis and with, the
I write with an M dash now in my email.
the M dash, the rocket ship,
all day long.
the rocket ship emojis.
Yeah.
Right.
And then there's this other trend on LinkedIn where people have their toy figures, like with
Yeah.
stuff. So
I just did one of those. Yeah.
what did you have for your props?
A bottle of Malort, of course. A cowboy hat.
Yeah. So I mean, so you see that influence, right? Eventually, I mean, hopefully this is not the case. Hopefully it's not the death of creativity. We're eventually just having AI we're willingly giving up control to AI. And what's interesting is like there was an article. There's a designer, Dan Moll. He kind of talked about this as a parallel to growing your client account. So what he talks about is being dependable means the client comes to you for the hardest answers to their questions, and you become supportive, right? And you're ridiculously helpful, and you kind of help them when you need to. And then whatever service they need, you kind of integrate with them, right? They need a custom app, they need a team, they need burst capacity, whatever you need. And then once you're in there, you start influencing the client. You kind of show them best practices, you kind of show them the process, frameworks, whatever you need to. And you get so good, similar to ChatGPT, you're just so valuable that the client starts to cede control to the agency, and the agency kind of become these trusted advisors. And my take on that is, if you look at it from a land and expand point of view, you can use that power for both good or bad, right? I mean, once a client trusts you enough, will you take advantage of that trust and be like, you know what, we're here to stay, and then we can just keep increasing our hours, like we're just here, right? So I think where the balance is, and it was the same thing with ChatGPT, is like how much control do you let AI or a consultancy take? The difference here being that a consultancy is actually more aware, or
I mean, you'd hope so.
yeah. So you could actually make that decision. You're like, I'm actually working in the client's best interest, so I'll be here when you need me, but you can always kind of take a step back.
But as a customer hiring a consultant, or it's actually, I love the ChatGPT or AI kind of analogy, because I'm constantly telling our sales team and our people, like, use AI. For the love of God, we all have to be using it, but do not, like, I hired you, I didn't hire ChatGPT. And so, like, I want the humanity, the personal nature, everything. Use the AI as a massive lever to be more and more productive. But then, like, you're the sign off. It's your email going to this, this lead. It's your conversation. It's your proposal. You don't lose agency. And so when a customer hires a consultant and they start to, like, build that trust, and then the consultant is insidious, they're gonna, like, take it all away. They're gonna try and hollow out the client so they can make less and less decisions. And so then they have more and more dependence on the consultant, and so then you end up with just like a shell of checkbook signers and a whole bunch of outsourced people making the decisions for the company. It sounds like an enterprise. Micah, what are your thoughts here?
It's that old adage, right? Job security through obscurity, right? So if I am the best at doing a specific thing and I own it, I can always keep billing, right? That's like the goal of a lot of consultancies.
So the land and expand is, like, so common. I want to I want to steel man it a little bit and figure out why it's so common, why people hire it. So let's try and put ourselves in the shoes of a consulting company and agency that's just landed a huge account. Why do we build and land and expand? What's the nature? Why is it good? Why is it good for the customer? How are we selling it?
To me, the biggest thing is the client doesn't know what's best for them. Like we are experts at this, which is why they hired us, and we want to make sure that we are protecting that quality that we came in to deliver, and we're protecting the client from themselves, right? Like they so.
But you're not saying that to a customer.
No. This is more for our reasons internally for us.
Okay.
Like
okay.
what is like. I mean, if we're looking at steel manning this argument, this is stuff that I would tell to ourselves and we'll tell to our people. There's nicer ways to say this, but I would say that's like we are experts. We know the tech stack, we know the technology, we know the process, we know the frameworks, and we know what's the latest and greatest in terms of user experience, in terms of product design. And when we go to the client, we can tell them, this is, so that's the reason why we would stay there. I mean, the client is an expert at their core offering, which is why they are probably the leader, or at least, doing really well in their market. But we are good at what we do, and we have a broad range of experience across multiple industries, and which is why we can come in and provide you that expertise. And once we get to a point of delivery and we're about to roll off, I mean, there's something to be said about can we trust the client enough to carry this forward, right? Can if they can't handle that continuity, we can do it. We can handle it for you. So yeah. I would say, like this all kind of boils down to risk management. I mean, like we are experts at that. We can kind of help you get there.
I think it's interesting to think about it from the context of, I think it's just what you said, Shahed. It's like, if you are a company that's not tech native, if you will, right? But every company is going to have to embrace technology in some way, shape, or form. Data is becoming much more important. Like all of those kind of things that you're holding on to that you might not have leveraged. Like, are you going to really build an engineering organization just out of the blue? Right. And so I can see where a land and expand model would work for that. Right. So my argument would be enablement of like starting from zero, if you will. And so you're not going to build an engineering team in one day. And in fact, you might not even know how to hire engineering leadership. You might not even understand how software gets built, but you need it. And so that relationship could be super long running, and you could expand further into things that you hadn't anticipated before. It's a really hard thing for me to do. It's steel man this, but
I can maybe take a shot, because I think
it's hard.
I think there is like a spot where it is hard, but I think there's a spot where it makes sense. So like one, digital. So I'm in the world of digital exclusively, or building software. Like we don't give a crap about software. We need it for a couple of things, but we don't give a crap about it. It is truly not a core part of our product offering. And so if I'm a company, actually, I just got a steam shower, and this is like, it's awesome. It has an app, but the app is awful. And I wish that the app was better. I don't think that Mr. Steam needs to go build out a app development team. Like, they need a mobile app where I can turn on my steam room on the way back from skiing, and I can set it to be ready when I get there. That's it. to have like 4 full-time employees, a project manager, a software developer, a designer, another software dev, infrastructure, it seems outrageous,
right,
for them to have. They should have an agency build them something. Now, do they need that agency there forever? Probably not, but I don't think that they need to like be enabled to build a mobile app. If Mr. Steam over time, yeah, so that's one. I think that like, it's just not a big part of their core offering. The other is like total cost of the team. So like if you're enabling or building out, a new skill set, if that skill set is inherently ephemeral. So if I need to like migrate my stack from Azure to AWS or something like that, and the migration skill is not something I need. I need to know how to run in AWS in the future, but I don't need to know how to get from Azure to AWS.
Sure.
Like, hire a consultant that just like doesn't enable you. Let them be there. I think on the other side, consultants want to do it just like you said because they are experts. Like that's, I pick a random company that like we've worked with. So say like car rentals, right? I'm an expert in like the logistics around renting cars, managing those assets, all those other things. I don't need to be an expert in like who has the latest and greatest, mobile front end.
Right.
And so if I can outsource that, like, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I outsource that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think a lot about another component of this, which is interesting, like Palantir's business model is really interesting. So building up on forward deployed engineers who can go to these long running engagements, these long running relationships, learn as much as possible, and then bring that knowledge back in house. Mm-hmm. And then they can actually extrapolate that into their own purposes. Mm-hmm. So self-servingly, that's a great way to make an argument for land and expand. The longer you're embedded in with that team, the more you expand into their business domain, you can bring that back to the mothership, right? Yep. And innovate.
But is that an advantage for the client?
Oh, no, not at all. Absolutely not. But if you were a pretty smart business person, like some of those folks over at Palantir are, you gotta make sense as to why you would do it that way. Like I said, I'm not great at advocating for this. So. Yeah. Here's our goal at Focused. Do the job so well, you don't need us anymore. We integrate the tech, transfer the knowledge, and then hand you the keys. If your consultants can't say the same, come talk to us at focus.io.
All right, for this next segment, I want to read off a scenario and get you guys' take on how we'd handle it or how you'd handle it. You're an external dev shop working with a fast-scaling DTC e-commerce brand.
That's a mouthful.
Really. They've got $5 million in annual sales, strong marketing, and loyal customers. But the tech behind it, you built most of it. The store runs on Shopify with a suite of custom liquid templates and a private app that you wrote. Their back office ops are powered by custom inventory and analytics dashboards hosted on Heroku. We act as their CTO in everything but the title, and billable hours are good. They love working with us, and they've never questioned ownership or internalized risk at all. But it's not going to be good if you and your team end up going away. How do you set them up for success?
If you are a trusted advisor, if you're a good consultant, you would already be thinking about, hey, I am the single point of failure. And it would be your responsibility to name that risk gently. You would say, hey, listen, guys, we kind of own everything. Have you ever thought about, just kind of taking over part of it? And then what I would also think about is how do we start empowering our clients to kind of take over that work? And there's like multiple frameworks, processes you could use. I like using the lean startup methodology because it's just pretty simple. It goes build, measure, learn. I would just flip it. So you would do learn, build, and measure. So learning is basically auditing, okay, what do we own in this process, which is basically everything, right? But then you start slowly handing off either process, rituals, like pairing, like whatever needs to get done to get the client more empowered. And I think there's also a benefit to this, and it goes back to some of our discussions earlier, which is if you do empower the clients to take ownership, it gets to a point where once they're comfortable, once you're gone, guess who they're going to call if they have a need the next time.
Yeah. Do CTOs ever fire themselves? If you're the CTO, you can just fire yourself, right?
I think it's like that. Like we as an agency are acting as the CTO, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But you would have that power, right?
Yeah.
So that's one way to do it. We call that the scream test in operations, right? Just turn everything off and then see who yells.
If someone screams.
Right. Yeah. Wasn't good, right?
Yeah.
No, I think to Shahed's point, though, I think what I'd hope that you're doing is from day one, building in those kind of levers you can pull to exit, right? And so some of the I'm gonna be annoying, but some of those things in that scenario, I want to ask like 12 questions about. And I know we don't have that level of detail, right? But there's some red flags in that scenario description. Hold on, I got it. Let's see. The red flag that I thought was, the fact that I own everything on custom built things. Like, if I'm the single point of failure and I designed it that way, I probably screwed up from the beginning.
Yeah.
Right. So just by creating that, I'm probably not acting like a trusted advisor. Right. So you have to build it in fundamentally to the process in which you engage. Right.
What if it is something like that steam shower where they don't have that capability? So you basically own all of it. Right?
Yeah.
I know this is like a much larger
Sure.
project, so might not be the right parallel, but it is possible.
Sure. But you can hire and fire. I mean, you want to build a team around that. That makes sense, right? And so you could bring in different folks to, help you offload that. Like, I think though that the scenario itself makes me kind of question things. Like, how do we get ourselves in this place
I think a lot of people get into this place where they hire I'm a fast growing company. I want an app. I want an app. We do a lot of restaurant apps, right? Like, and restaurants, they're like, wow, we need a loyalty app. So we are going to go buy one. So they buy a white label app, and then they feel like, it just like doesn't quite get where I need it to be. We would love to have, a feature that this white label doesn't offer or something like that. And so they're like, let's build something. And so then they start to build it, and then they have an agency that just like builds and manages that app. It's like pretty common for a third party to build and manage software for a company that isn't a software company.
Sure.
Mr. Steam, if you need an app, call me. Because I would love to fix that app.
I got a guy.
For real.
We can transition off of that.
Think of it like a tip jar, but instead of money, it's a rating. If this episode sparked a new idea, scroll up and leave us a quick 5-star rating on Spotify. It helps more people find the show and keeps us doing what we're doing. All right, let's get back into it.
All right, so we've been talking a lot about enablement, deprecation, land and expand. I want to throw out some ideas, and we say whether they're a good idea, bad idea, hot or not, and then we can talk about them a little bit. Work?
Yeah, let's do it.
Work for you guys?
I love it.
Cool. First, consultants charge a premium upfront because they're teaching the client how to operate independently.
And I would say that maybe the framing isn't, like I would say the framing should be around value, not around the premium. But in the spirit of that, I would say hot.
Hot, amazing. You're just doubling down on basically your secret sauce. That's why you would hire a consultant, right?
Cool. I say hot too. You're getting two for the price of one. You're getting skills and product would be the hope. So you may as well pay double. Mm-hmm. No, don't do that.
I mean, you could.
Yeah. They're like, if you are doing the teaching the client enablement style work, there's definitely higher value, and I wouldn't price it like commodity labor.
Right.
Sure.
Right. And I would also expect not to pay the same price as just labor.
Right.
So like, you get this every now and then. People are like, well, a consultant's $200 an hour, and I pay $140,000 a year for a developer. So, that consultant there's more than double the cost. And you're like, yeah, if they're delivering double the value because they're teaching you, bringing in a skill, that's all good. I think that's why it's worth it.
For sure.
All right, next one. Ooh, this one's interesting. Dev shops financially incentivizing their consultants based on how quickly the clients become independent.
Not. I think this could be a perverse incentive. Like it reminds me of the story during when the British colonized India. They had a problem with cobras in the streets of Delhi, and they were just too many of them. They were all venomous cobras. So they put an incentive out saying that, hey, we should whoever kills these cobras, we're gonna pay them like money for every dead cobra that they brought through. And it was great in the beginning. But then people started breeding cobras and then killing them and then bringing them back. And then when the British realized, hey, you know what, this is actually a terrible,
brilliant.
this is a terrible idea. So they scrapped the program. And guess what they did? They just released all the cobras again. Now they had more cobras than they had previously, right? So I think that your incentives should be tracked, right? And I think incentivizing consultants on how quickly someone becomes independent, I think there's a way to gamify that, which might not work in the best interest in the long run.
Well, how am I supposed to call this hot after you give an example like that? Because I actually think it is pretty hot. I think I think being able to incentivize someone to get someone quickly independent changes the way you just fundamentally operate, right? And so it puts that pressure as a forcing function to say, we are going to get out of the way. Can it be gamed? Yeah, thanks a lot, Shahed, for ruining my point. Will it be gamed, especially by a bunch of engineers? Probably, but I still think it's a hot idea.
I would say not, because fully independent is different than, I think, like enablement. Enablement is helping people take the bulk of the work in-house, but then using the consultants like a cheat code. Like you want to be really good. I don't know. This one's tough for me. I'm
Yeah.
lukewarm. It's not
Lukewarm.
hot. It's not.
Yeah.
It's in the middle for me. I don't know. That one's tough. Consultants offering lifetime free support via documentation, but refusing paid post-project support. Not because you should get paid for your work.
You jumped in the
Yeah,
order.
you jumped in.
Sorry, not.
You feel that strongly about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Not. It's just. I mean, that is the value of the client. That FaceTime, that consulting, that advice, and doing that through documentation. I don't know. Just feels kind of meh.
Yeah, hard pass on that. Not documentation is not support.
Yep.
There is a hidden one in here. I like this one a little bit, and I like coming strong with not, because you should get paid. But it is the other side is like offering a guarantee.
Sure.
Like, we guarantee that within 6 months you will feel confident enough to take this project by yourself. And so what goes behind that guarantee is that they're rewarded with, if you don't do it, they're rewarded with a refund or more time or something like that. So like there is something there where like we will, cross our hearts, hope to die, get you to a place where you can keep going without us. What we've found, and it's been a really great relationship with our customers, is like we set people up to be enabled and keep working without us, but they often want to keep us around because we're like,
Right.
we're kind of the friend that, helps clean up at the party. Right. And so it's like, it's great to have them there. They're not causing any problems, and they're constantly, setting us up for success and doing a great job. So why not keep them around? And so the outcome is actually probably more, I don't know. It's good.
Yeah,
I don't know
if
how
you
to
could
say
get
that. That was bad. But
if you could get engineers to guarantee documentation, that actually might be
you just have
a win.
AI generated docs. I like this one actually, and this I think we do a lot. Offer shorter than needed contracts specifically to pressure clients into taking ownership faster. So how do you size an engagement to like front load value?
Yeah, I would say this is hot. Precisely for the reason that you called out. It's maybe like pressure is a strong word, but I get it. Like it's why it's needed. But if it's communicated in a way, again, going back to that value, like you're getting that value much faster, then that becomes a much easier sell.
Yeah, I'd say hot. I think though you got to be really good to be able to do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to be able. Your estimates need to be really solid, and I think you talked about a guarantee. I think backing that up with a guarantee would be a 1-2 punch. But I think it's a hot idea.
An agency not offering a like retained contract or maintenance program, so that the customer has to figure out a way to carry the torch in between product roles.
My first reaction was hot, but then as I think about it, I can see all the ways that it could go wrong, or not wrong, but like is if the intent there is to force the customer to kind of take ownership. I'm gonna go with hot. I'm gonna stick with hot.
I think it's hot. I think that's a great way to operate. Come in, do the job, leave, make it better. I don't see like a big value in like retained support or things like that.
Cool. I'm gonna say not. And we don't have maintenance or retained programs at Focus, so there you go.
Right,
But I
right.
still think it's a bad call because we will do it because it's about understanding where customers are and when they want to take over their product. I do think like having the ability to do it is important. It's really stressful on our business to add retained services because it's not what we're built around. We engage 40 hours a week, per person, per project. And it's like that intensity and focus on a customer is what makes us great. And as soon as you're like, I'll do 10 hours a week here and 10 hours there, like that, there's switching costs and all that stuff.
Right.
But customers, as they're in-housing products, so I'm back at the Shopify example that we had earlier. Like, I'm starting to want to in-house my app development, right? I'm starting to want to think about like, how do I get my own design team or my own product team, because my consultants may be expensive, or maybe because I just want to be able to call them on a weekend or whatever it is. We should have different ways of engaging in order to meet our customers where they are as they go through like their software journey.
Sure.
The enterprises already have gajillions of developers, so like never a problem. But when you're doing a little startup or a brand new company and they don't have those devs, or a big company that doesn't have software yet, having maintenance programs to show them even how to do that is great. It's empathetic. I'm going to show you. I'm going to be there with you as we build your products. But we still want to make sure we set the ground. So like, it's not retained services so you have us here forever. It's retained services because like you don't have what you need yet.
So you're calling me not empathetic because I said
Yeah, I
it
am.
was hot.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Awesome. Excellent. AI pair programmers are here, promising to revolutionize how we write code. But is that a good thing? In the next episode, we're diving into the debate. Do AI coding assistants make engineers smarter and faster, or do they encourage laziness and bad habits?
Remember to respect the craft. Evolution doesn't require chaos, and teams will always beat heroes. Cheers.